Hello and good evening. It is 10 p.m. Wednesday night, Central Standard Time, and that means the Practical Preacher is live. I am your Practical Preacher for tonight, and what we do here at Practical Preacher, if you've never joined us before, is that we look at the Bible and try to make practical sense out of it, at least sense out of it. What we're doing is we are in the midst of a series on Revelation. We're going all the way through Revelation. There's a lot of questions these days, people thinking that today is right these days we're entering the tribulation or we're in the tribulation. And we're taking a look at, the tribulation. We're looking at Revelation. And, it's one of those books that's kind of weird. It's different than what we normally read, but it's also really, really cool. Today is a great example. And one thing that's been going through my mind as we study it is John has all these various visions, right? And whether or not we can make sense of them, or if we're right when we think we make sense out of them, is beside the point. Because my question was, are they to be taken in linear order the whole way through? Linear order. That this happened, and then this happened, then this happened, next this happened. And today we see that no, that is not the case. Because we're going back in time. For us, about 2022 years, roughly. Depends on when you want to start the calendar. Because we have the woman and the dragon. Now we have this. I'm just going to, spoiler alert here. Close your ears if you don't want to hear anything about what's about to happen. We have the woman, who is Israel, and we have the great red dragon, who, of course, is Satan. And this occurs during the time of Jesus, starting with his birth. So watch. Again, I'm not going to read the whole chapter yet. Just going to read half of it, and then we'll stop. The woman and the dragon, and a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. That's a description of Israel, especially when it's crowned, so to speak, with the description of the crown with the 12 stars. Those are the houses of Israel. Okay. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, but her child was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, in which she is to be nourished for 12,060 days. Now, kind of already explained most of it already, a lot of it. Now, the woman is Israel, and the dragon is, of course, Satan. And so what we have, time-wise, what we have is the time of Jesus' birth right here, and his entire life. But so this obviously is not happening today. This has already happened. So this is not, the visions cannot go in linear order, which I think it's good because it takes a lot of the pressure off of trying to figure out what comes first and last and second and third and stuff. So, because we see is, the dragon was there in the beginning, right? He was there. He was ready. He didn't want Jesus to be born. He did everything he could to keep him from being born. Remember when Jesus was born and they killed all the young children under 3 or something like that. Who do you think orchestrated that, and why? Satan, to get rid of Jesus. Okay, it doesn't. It's not that complicated, people. So that's the second part. That's the first part, and then he has another vision, similar but different. Now arose in heaven. Now war arose in heaven. Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. I'll stop right there. Just kind of studying a little bit for this. Some people think that the first one is one vision, the next one is another vision, which, yeah, but they think that one is the birth of Jesus, and the other one corresponds to some other time. But I don't think so. I think they're placed together for the exact reason is that this is also going on here. Remember what we just read before, Satan came down and he brought a third of the stars. So that means he's coming down to heaven right then. He's coming down to heaven and he's bringing a third of the angels of heaven with him. Okay? And then after that he's prepared to eat the baby. Sorry, that's what he's doing. He's trying to eat the baby. Okay? And then he's prevented. In this one, you can see he's prevented again. But here we go. And he was a place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient spirit who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Remember, that's the third of the stars. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they love not their lives even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, you who dwell in them, but woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. Ba, ba, ba. Okay? So this is happening, no wonder he's so ticked off right here. He's getting the first bit. This kind of tells you what's going on behind the scenes of the first story, right? Why was he even on the earth? He was on the earth because he got thrown down by Michael. And it's at that time, a third of the angels went down with him. And that was in the first story. And, let's talk about it in the second story, but that's, and he's ticked off. But the timing is spot on, because that's when Jesus was being born. It started at their battles. I don't know when their battles started, but for our purposes, it started the second Jesus was born. But he didn't get him. And Jesus lived his life and died for us on that cross. And then rose on the third day from death. And then later on, he ascended into heaven physically. He didn't die. He ascended physically. And that's why we have grace today. And basically, that grace that comes with our belief and love for Jesus Christ is what keeps the devil at bay. Because as you're going to find out, he's got nothing better to do than to harass us. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given the 2 wings of the great eagle, so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness, to the place where she is to be nourished for a time and times and half a time. The serpent poured water like river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with a flood. But the earth itself, doesn't say itself, but the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And he stood on the sand of the sea. Read that most of the last bit again. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. We're talking about the church, people. This is scary stuff. Because we're talking about, basically Michael and the angels throwing down the devil to earth. Thank you. And the devil never being able to really get a stranglehold on Israel. And so now we have this new thing called the church, made up of those who keep the commandments and hold to the testimony of Jesus. The commandments. Love God with your entire being. Love your neighbor as yourself. And love one another. Those are the commandments, people. It also boils down to, love God with all your faith, with all your mind, soul, strength, and being. That's like faith. And love your neighbor as yourself. There's love, right? And how do you show that love? How do we love one another? By serving one another. That's faith, love, and service. Go back to Revelations 2:19, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about here. It's something that Christ Bearer Ministries and the Practical Preacher in particular has been preaching for a long time. And then in Revelation 2:19, there it was. Those exact words. And he threw in the word endurance. And that's what we need, endurance at this time. If you watch this channel, you know about faith, love, and service and the importance of those in leading a Christian life. But then there's endurance. And I believe God throws that into us in chapter 2 to show us this is what, you have to look for it, and you have maybe be shown it. I don't know. But it's there. And this is what a good church looks like. And I expect you to keep doing that. Faith, love, and service is what a good church looks like. And I expect you to keep doing it. Endurance. You need to endure. We all need to endure. Why? Because Satan is on a rampage. Has been for like a couple thousand years now. And who's he mad at? You and me. You and me. Because we're Christians. He doesn't like that. It's the cause of his. It's like Christ's coming was the cause of his defeat. Now he can't be up in heaven and go, oh, that guy did this. This guy, don't let that guy into heaven because he pulled his cat's tail or whatever he did. He was the accuser in heaven before the throne of God. Now he's not. There's nobody up there going to tell God your innermost evil secret. As if God doesn't already know it. There's nobody there anymore. And besides, if you're a Christian, like I explained before, all of your sins are forgiven. All you ever committed, all you're committing right now, and all you're gonna commit are forgiven because your Lord is Jesus Christ. It doesn't mean that doesn't give you carte blanche to go around sinning, because if you truly are, you're not gonna do that. Okay? Not gonna get into the weird philosophical, theological explanations of that and get in an argument, but to just put it this way, you don't get being under grace is, like I said, it does not give any of us carte blanche to do whatever we want. And if that's what you're thinking, you need to check your faith, because you wouldn't do that. Just remember, moderation is kind of just think of the ancient Stoics. Moderation in all things. Think of other people first. Think of the greater good. Is this sort of behavior going to be good for me or not? If it's not, I don't want to do it. See, there's a lot of interplay that can be used between Stoicism and Christianity. Good Christianity, anyway. So, just remember, God is interested more in what you do than on those little things that you don't do on a daily basis. But enough of that. What do you think of this? Now I have to go back and look at everything now that I figured out, because I'm such a genius, that it's totally not linear. Because this is the history. Basically, we just read chapter 12, and it's sort of the history of the church in a nutshell. Just this. And that's what we're still dealing with today. Is it ticked off Satan? It wants nothing more than to mess up our lives. But remember, endurance is the key. No matter what happens, endurance. Don't let it change you. You are responsible for how you react to the changes in your life and the changes around you. Endurance. Keep up with your faith, love, and service no matter what happens. No matter who's banging at your door, because it's probably Satan. Don't open it. So I'll leave you with that. Next week, we're going to look at messages of the three angels. No, sorry. I lie. We're going to be looking at the first beast, chapter 13. The first beast. This should be exciting and maybe a little scary. If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And whether you like the video or not, give me some comments down below. People seem to be quiet lately. I do need some comments. So that's the episode for tonight. Love you guys and girls. And more important than that, God loves you. And you take that to the bank. God bless you, Karen. And good night, everybody. See you next week.